Today I'm making sushi, which is not nearly as scary as it sounds. This is actually the Japanese version of a sandwich, essentially. So there's a lot of room for variation, making it how you like it. And this is only the second time I've ever made it. The first time it went great, so hopefully it'll go just as well this time and I can show you how I did it. The first thing you need to do is you need to make your sushi rice. This is a short grain brown rice that I soaked. You can see the instructions in my how to soak brown rice video. And then I cooked it with, for every cup of dry rice, 2 tablespoons of turbinado sugar, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And it's a triple batch of that. And of course the liquid for cooking your rice, 2 cups of water for every cup of rice. And it's not any special kind of sushi rice or anything, it's just short grain. That's enough to make it sticky and stick together to make this work. I'm sure there's some fancy sushi rice you could use too, but it is not necessary as long as it's short grain. That part is important. And then I have here my sheet of nori, which is, you can see there's a smooth side and a rough side. That is rough side up. And I'm going to take a handful of rice here. Your hands will get messy making sushi. And just kind of press it down, smooth it across the sheet of nori. And you really want it to go not as thin as you possibly can, but pretty thin so that you can actually roll it up. Think about how when you're making a burrito, you put too much stuff in it, it doesn't really roll properly. You really want your sushi to be pretty when you're done. So you want to make sure your layers of stuff are fairly thin so that it rolls up pretty. And you can use, like I said, you can use any kinds of fillings that you like in this. I have a couple of different filling combinations here. I have some slices of avocado, and I have some celery cut into matchstick pieces, and some green onion tops. And I have a little bit of cream cheese, and of course some crab meat. Now, for your crab meat, you have a couple of different options, and I will talk about that in just a second here. I need to rinse the rice off my hands. You see that I've spread this rice across the sushi, making just kind of a nice flat sheet of rice and leaving a little gap around the edges so that it doesn't squeeze out and get really messy when I roll it up. It's easier to work with the rice if your hands are a little bit wet, but they really have to be very dry when working with the nori, that is the seaweed. So along one edge here, I'm going to put some crab meat. Now this crab meat that I'm using, this is canned crab meat. This is, I think, about right around $3 at Kroger. This is the best option that I've found for crab meat. You can also get imitation crab meat, which is, you can get on sale for like $1 for a 5-ounce package, I think. And you can get that in sticks or flakes or whatever. But that is basically fish with a whole bunch of chemicals and junk added to make it taste like crab. So you want to avoid that if you're going for the healthy options. I also once bought some more fresh crab. It wasn't completely fresh, but it was in the seafood section instead of the canned food section, and it came in a plastic tub. And we actually did not like that nearly as well. The flavor was just more overwhelming, and it had little bits of claw and stuff still in it, and so it was harder to use. So this is my favorite. It's got a good flavor, it's really simple and basic to use, and it's relatively inexpensive and doesn't have any really awful ingredients added. So I'm just going to take some of this and just put kind of a little layer along this one edge here. And what I'm going to do is kind of like an imitation California roll. It's not quite a normal California roll, but my own version of it. And then I'm going to put a couple slices of avocado right across here. And then I have some cream cheese. What I did is I sliced the cream cheese and then cut the slices in half lengthwise so they're a little more manageable to deal with. And that I'm going to set right on top there. just another end of cream cheese slice here at the end to make that come out the right length. And then, definitely need to dry my hands again for the rolling part. Now, I do have a bamboo cutting board rolling thing, which they say is indispensable for making sushi. The first time, I just did this with my bare hands here. I just folded that over. Still seems to be working. I'm sure it's not as tight a roll as I would get with the bamboo. But yep, just fold it over and just roll it up very nicely. And it's not so pretty on the very end, but you can see there how it's all rolled up in a spiral. A little bit of rice stuck to the outside edge there. See if I can make my seam a little bit tighter. And then I'm going to cut this into slices. And I guess, I don't know, maybe an inch thick. See, this one isn't as pretty as like a professionally made sushi roll, but you can see the fillings in the middle there. And a little bit of spiral with the rice and the seaweed. And this one I will try rolling up with the bamboo cutting board and see if that makes it particularly easier. Again, rough side up. Get a handful-ish of rice here. Kind of pat it out across the sushi nori. Alright, and then once your rice is in a nice thin layer with some room left around the edges, you add your fillings. For this one, I'm going to add a celery matchstick and of course the crab meat. And as you can see, sushi does not have to involve raw fish. I have eaten sushi with raw fish at restaurants, but I have no interest really in working with raw fish in my kitchen. That just kind of makes me nervous. I'm adding a green onion top to this one also. And I'm going to keep this one simple. I would really only add 2 to 3 vegetables per sushi roll. I'm going to try this with the bamboo. See how it rolls. Seems to roll up to me about the same as just doing it by hand. So I would say, you know, they always say you really can't make sushi without a special rolling mat like this. But I would say, unless your nori is particularly difficult to work with, maybe, that it's certainly worth a try to try it out and find out if you like making sushi before you have to invest in a rolling mat. That's my experience. You can see this one's kind of pretty with the 2 little bits of green there. And I'm going to be a little bit risk-taking and add more ingredients to this one. I'm going to put in cream cheese again because I really like cream cheese. And then I'm going to put in some avocado. Again, really enjoy avocado. My husband's not a huge fan of avocado, but when I made the sushi before with the avocado, and I think I used cucumber, which neither of us normally like particularly, and it turned out really well, and he really enjoyed it. The first time I made it, I was trying to follow a recipe as closely as possible because I was nervous about making sushi, because sushi is just like a big deal and supposed to be so elegant and so hard. And after making it once, I was just like, I have no idea what I was so scared of. There's so much room for creativity and experimentation. The end sushi are just not as pretty. And I might need a sharper knife. That might be working a little better for me. This one has more white in it, but also not an ugly sushi. I'm going to go ahead and make carrot shavings for this. So I'm just going to take a vegetable peeler on this peeled half of the carrot here and make a couple of strips across. And that'll add some nice color and contrast with the green and white fillings in the other sushi. If you have leftover ingredients, you can make a kind of a sushi stir fry, especially if you've got some rice left over that you don't really want to use for just normal rice. Just mix it in with your leftover sushi ingredients for lunch the next day. That should be pretty good. Now I'm going to throw some celery in this one. So crab, carrot, celery, green onion again, I guess. And then these are traditionally served with a dipping sauce. I don't normally have ingredients on hand to make a traditional dipping sauce, so I did a very American version of the spicy kind of dipping sauce that's usually used, and I put a little Tabasco in some mayonnaise, and it was surprisingly good. Not really traditional, but pretty good. And there, I think the carrot's really pretty in that. And there you have it, some semi-traditional sushi that is really not that hard to make. I made all of that in less than 30 minutes, not counting the prep time cutting up the vegetables. But that's not too bad, and it's a lot of fun, and it's yummy, and it's good for you. So there is no reason I can think of not to eat sushi. Have fun with it.